The Philadelphia 76ers made a huge splash last weekend by acquiring star swingman Jimmy Butler. The trade ends Butler's tumultuous 17-month tenure with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Butler scored 14 points in his first game for the Sixers against the Orlando Magic on Wednesday. Joining me now to talk things NBA, Bill Reiter. He's the host of Reiter's Block on CBS Sports HQ. Okay, Bill, so how does Butler fit with the Sixers?
Yeah, that's the big question, Rena. I mean, it's a big splash, and he's a great player, but I think the jury's still out on whether or not it's going to work in the long term. He needs the ball in his hands. So does Ben Simmons, a young star there who's not much of a shooter yet. And Jimmy Butler, as great as he is, was a disgruntled star when he left Minnesota, and they gave up Robert Covington and Dario Saric as part of that trade. Two really good young players, Saric in particular, in terms of his youth, who fit into what Philly was good at and what they're about. I'm a little skeptical, and so are a lot of sources around the NBA. It may work, but it's just as likely it's going to be a mistake. It'll be one of the more interesting questions that'll be answered over the course of this NBA season.
Interesting to hear you say it's a mistake. There's been more drama in this saga in Minnesota than a Spanish telenovela. Remind us of the highlights, and where do the Timberwolves go from here?
Yeah, so Jimmy Butler, who was coached by Tom Thibodeau in Chicago and then in Minnesota, just got tired of his head coach and his young superstars. And from his perspective, Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, very talented young players in Minnesota, weren't playing the level of defense and weren't committed to winning the way that he wanted them to be. And he demanded a trade. He sat out with what really felt like phony illnesses or injuries. And now he's got what he wanted. And what's interesting, and this is a small sample size, Rena, so we don't know yet, but in the two games without Jimmy Butler, the Timberwolves have looked amazing. They've looked joyous. They've won both of those basketball games. I like what Minnesota did. I don't know if Thibodeau will survive as the head coach, but they added two really nice young players. Covington was a first-team all-defensive guy last year. He's a great three-point shooter, a 3-and-D guy. Saric, young player, has the chance to grow into somebody really special. I don't think the Timberwolves are making the playoffs this year, but I actually like the move for what they acquired in the long term.
You know, speaking of drama, there's also some tension out west in Oakland as well between Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. Is the fight between the Warriors, these stars, the beginning of the end with the Golden State?
Yeah, I think it is. Bill Parcells, a former NFL coach, said people tell you who they are, listen. And the Warriors are telling all of us that they are a angst-ridden organization. They'll probably win an NBA championship this year. They're too talented not to. But Draymond Green is a guy that's always been about the chip on his shoulder, directed outwardly. Now it's going to be directed inwardly. I'm shocked that they suspended him for a game. And talking to sources around that organization, the mood there, I'm told, is still extraordinarily toxic, especially with Kevin Durant, who snapped at a reporter last night, said didn't want to talk about Draymond Green. That's because he is put out with his teammate. I do think it is a sign that things are going to be difficult in the long term to keep this band together. So it feels like the Beatles and the Let It Be album. It was great, but it was also the end.
It was also the end. Hey, speaking of the end, Carmelo Anthony done with Houston after just a month. Can you imagine the rest of us folks joining a job and being over within 4 weeks? Are the Rockets better off without him?
Yeah, I think they are. This is a big-time addition by subtraction. Melo's a nice guy, and I've interacted with him a lot. He's a gracious professional, but he does subtract from excellence in winning ways in a locker room. That's been true for a while. He doesn't fit the modern NBA. For whatever reason, his inability to evolve has led to a selfishness on the floor that stunts the growth and the opportunities for his teammates. Sportsline over at CBSSports.com said that almost a 20% increase in the odds for the Rockets to win a championship with Melo gone. He's a talent, but talent's not everything, and the NBA is more a team game than it's ever been in the last 20 or 30 years. That's not what Melo's about. His best move is probably a very well-deserved retirement.
Wow, interesting. So on the other hand, you've got LeBron James and the LA Lakers on a total tear of late. Is LeBron bringing the Lakers back?
Yeah, he is. All those Chicken Littles who said the sky was falling, they're nowhere to be found. This is what LeBron does. When LeBron was a new member of the Heat 8 years ago, they started 9-8. Everyone freaked out. They made the finals. He went back to Cleveland, Rena. They started 19-20, under 500 in January. Everyone freaked out. They made the finals. This team was always going to be fine. LeBron James, one of the great players of all time. We saw that in passing Will on the scoring list. The Lakers are fine. They're going to be really good. They're going to figure it out. And this is just me. This is not a universal perspective, but I would be shocked if they don't beat every single team they face in the Western Conference Finals until they run to that Warriors team and they lose to those guys. It's a LeBron James team, and we forget sometimes when you have him, you have a chance.
Wow, interesting to hear you say that, because we're going to play back this soundbite if you're wrong.
You know what? I'm wrong a lot. Let's do it. Save it. I'm ready. I'll stand by it.
All right. Hey, before you go, though, Bill, I do want to ask you about college hoops. I know it's early, but there's one star that keeps standing out, Duke's Zion Williamson. What's been your reaction to his really hot start?
Oh my gosh, he's too good for college. I'm with Steve Kerr. This was supposed to be a one-off with LeBron James. He's such a physical specimen. He probably weighs 285 or 290, but he moves like he is almost like he's a guard. Now, he doesn't shoot the ball the way that he needs to, but neither did LeBron when he came out of high school. This young man hasn't just created a situation like we've seen in college football with Alabama or the NBA with the Warriors, where it feels certain, and Vegas has sort of has fallen the line here. They're almost even money to be champions this year in March Madness. I think Zion Williamson is going to be one of those transcendent, franchise-changing players. Whoever lands him next year in the draft, like with LeBron James, in the long run, will be very good, because I think he's that remarkable.
How tall is he?
He's like 6'8". I mean, he's a big. He's a big, maybe 6'7". Like they always exaggerate. I mean, Michael Beasley lost 4 inches when he went from college to the NBA. But he's a big dude, and he's a strong dude, and he's a physical player. But he has the skill set to evolve into someone with every tool in his arsenal over time. I mean, the kid's still a young man, right? 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
By the time he's 24 or 25, he's going to be so dangerous.
That's you heard it here first. Bill Reiter, host of Sports HQ. Thank you for joining us, Bill.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. And hey, by the way, don't forget, you can watch Reiter's show, Reiter's Block, every Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m., only on CBS Sports HQ.